lot of people tell me that I got it wrong with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. So with that being said, I'm going to go back into my hole of being 50-50 fights here. And I'll explain why when we get there. But, Antt, you said you stopped scoring it at some point, right?
Man, I was very impressed. That's what I was watching. What I felt like to me, it was like big brother fighting little brother. Little brother went and got some confidence after big brother beat me up a few times. I went and gained my confidence. I'm the man now. I got the youth. The first 3 rounds, I'm like, damn, he on his ass. Youth, everything. And then all of a sudden, big brother.
Yeah.
And then big brother's like,
I like that.
Then big brother said, I'm going to beat you at your old game at the end. I said, oh, man.
Yeah, he trying to get dirty. He trying to puck you.
I'm like, come on. Don't let that happen.
Initial thoughts when you first was watching the fight.
Good fight for sure. And Eubank Jr. surprised me. I think the will of Eubank Jr. has to be commended. Yeah. We're eating our words. We both thought that weight cut, and we turned out to be right about that. That weight cut was brutal on him, as he showed. I think the fact that Eubank Jr., with an awful weight cut, really looking like his legs and his snap weren't even with him in this fight, to out-hustle a man 7 years younger who's comfortable and strong at the weight when you're drained, and to out-hustle him down that is Chris Eubank Jr.'s finest hour. I think he's got big heart, big balls. Yeah. And Conor Benn did too. Yeah. But his were a little bit bigger down the stretch.
A lot of times when you talk about going across the pond to fight, it's always, well, not always, but one of the major components is how comfortable you are. We saw Anthony Joshua come over here and he lost to Andy Ruiz. I think that he was overestimating Andy. I think he, underestimating Andy and looking at Andy and thinking that Andy wasn't something that he actually was. It was a surprise. He got dropped and it kind of went from there. I know he dropped Andy too, but he never really got comfortable in the ring. And a lot of times when there's that overseas thing, it's that process of how comfortable are you. I truly think that there was some comfort here for Chris Eubank knowing Conor Benn as close as he has, and it created the ability for him to find that heart that we saw. He got comfortable right around that midway of the fight, and I think that also knowing Conor Benn also helped create that level of comfort that he had to kind of keep going with it. I was really that. I think that was the most impressive thing to me in the fight.
We're getting into it now, right?
We're into it.
So
let my hands
go. Goddamn man,
he said, "Let my hands go." I love it.
I good and bad. I just it was a frustrating fight to watch too. More so on the side of Conor Benn, and I think Nigel Benn would agree with me. Yeah, I know he does because he said it after the fight. Yeah, and it was frustrating to watch on the part of Eubank because I got the sense if he was strong tonight and fresh, he could stop this kid. And his counterpunching would have been a lot more brutal early in the fight. And he wouldn't have had to resort to just mauling and brawling in the last 5 rounds. He was a dead man those last 5 rounds. This is why it was frustrating on Conor Benn's end. It reminded me of that third Roy Jones-Tarver fight. And Sean, I don't know if you remember that fight, but Tarver, he gassed out so bad towards the end of the fight. Emmanuel Stewart was like, if Roy just had anything in the tank, he could actually take advantage of this, but he couldn't. Conor Benn had something in the tank, but what he didn't have was IQ. And you don't hook with the hooker, but you do jab with the jabber. And Sean texted me halfway through the fight, where's the damn jab? Shaking my damn head. Him starting from too far out and lunging in with his big shots. If you just were starting a little closer, and I know I'm not the boxer, I'm not the boxing trainer, but if you could find a way, like Sean used to navigate that distance behind your jab a little bit so you get closer to him and not have to start your work from so far out, you might have been able to win this fight if you're Conor Benn.
When people talk about experience
against this version of Eubank,
that's I think probably the clearest indication of how much experience you have is dictating when and where you throw your punches, when you throw them and where you throw them from. The clearest indication of his lack of experience was his inability to close the distance and then punch. And that really is it's really a matter of stepping up. But when you have experience, you've stepped up and you know the range of your opponent, the experience you have, the knowledge of when I step up, I'm in range, he's gonna throw this. It's reflexes. It's just knowing the game. And he did not know how to close the distance and then go. He didn't know how to use the jab to create that ability to close the distance. He started using feints at one point, and I said, okay, well, here we go. These feints will help you stop Eubank from using his jab. That'll it'll stop his ability from timing you on your way in. But it just, for me, for those people, because I got a little bothered that people were telling me that you picked wrong. And I was like, well, shit, I know what I know, right? So I know that a shorter fighter can beat a taller fighter. I know how to do that, right? So in my mind, these are what I've figured out Conor's gonna do. I sparred with Conor. Conor was using the jab when I sparred with him. But again, we're talking about being comfortable. Being in the ring with the headgear on, knowing this is 2 or 3 rounds with somebody that I look up to and blah, 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 blah. There's that level of comfort. Right here in this, I didn't see game plan. Only thing I saw was I'm going to knock him out. And I was frustrated on a number of levels, I think, like you. But Antt, to your point, like, I probably counted the first. I kept trying to count.
Yeah.
But after about halfway, and it was 3-3, and they were close rounds, I was like, man, this thing is just gonna heat up.
Fight of the year.
And it started heating up and heating up.
Yeah. But you're looking at it like a trainer. Like, Conor, I know you have more in your tank. You could have did way more last night.
I tweeted that he looked like Hank from Me, Myself, and Irene. When
I thought you was doing a play on the word tank.
No.
Go ahead.
When Jim Carrey would turn into Hank, he always wanted to fight.
Uh-huh.
And when he would fight, he would do this, he would do this, but he wouldn't go nowhere, right? He would do this, he would do this, he'd throw little punches and stuff like that. He wouldn't go nowhere. Conor would take this big loop and then go backwards. He would take this big loop offline and then come backwards. And it was like, you just wasted that energy. You wasted that motion.
He fought a very inefficient fight.
Yeah.
That's what was frustrating about it. You see the speed, you see the power. If you put it together a little bit.
Not knowing how to use it. Yeah. Yep. Not knowing how to use it. And so, I was trying to be funny.
And Eubank's there for the taking for you tonight.
But
he's not at 100%.
Yeah.
But
is that Sanders' fault?
But
Is that Billy's fault? Trainer? Trainer? Who fault is that?
It's always on the fighter. Okay. And then after that, it's on the team.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think, again, going back to Conor Benn, y'all should have been going to the body from the opening bell.
But you can't do that if you're too far out.
Right, you can't do that if you're too far out. But I didn't see him going to the body till like the 8th or the 9th round.
Yeah,
legitimately throwing a body shot until the 8th or the 9th round.
Yeah, when he did it by 10 and 11, I was like, well, Eubank can see the light at the end of the tunnel now.
Yeah.
Like that needed.
Damn.
You got it.
I'll be talking.
Yeah. He said, let me get some. Yeah. But and I was like, that weight cut was public. We saw it all. There's no way as a coach, I don't call my fighter. There's no way as a coach, I don't lay back in my bed and I tweet and text my fighter like, yo, we going to the body all night. We draining, we taking the rest of what he got out of him. Don't worry about the head. We're exclusive to the body for the first 3 rounds. If anything, guess what? Just look, if anything, the first 3 rounds going to the body, now where's Chris Eubank looking? Now what's he expecting? That opens up the head. But, again, lack of preparation, lack of experience, and in that big moment, it was a humongous moment for both those guys. I'm happy that they had that moment, and I think they got another one coming.
Yeah.
As long as Chris doesn't, say, hey, I'm just not fighting no more. Which after a fight like that, why not? You know what I mean? But they got a lot of money to make, and 2 more fight, or at least 1 more fight like this to make happen. But in a rematch, you got to be going to the body if you're Chris Eubank. If you're Conor Benn, and you got to learn how to close the distance. Call me. And then for Chris,
jab was on point.
Jab was on point.
It has been for the last several fights.
He didn't let that right hand go early. Like early in the fight, I thought he should have been letting that right hand go sooner. And I thought that he started letting it go later in the fight. And again, we talking about being able to set up punches, holding those punches sets them up later because your opponent doesn't have the pattern of seeing 1-2, the pattern of seeing right hand, left hook, and things like that. So there's multiple ways to set up punches. So
the more experienced guy won last night.
And he said that would be a big factor, Eubank Jr. And Eubank Jr. said he had to be at 60% to beat Conor Benn. I'm not saying he was at 60, 70. He didn't look at 100.
Obviously, with weight.
Yeah, so he backed it up.
Does the rematch, we 160, that's it? Because I'm the A side now?
And money talks. Eubank Jr. will probably...
I thought that fight was at 160.
It was.
Yeah.
But Eubank Jr. having won the first fight, I imagine he's going to do
I thought he
whatever.
make weight. Hold on. Didn't he?
He missed by 0.05.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was 100,000 a half gram.
Damn. Oh, that's why I thought it was so much. Damn.
Grams get you caught up in boxing.
Damn. And in the streets. And in the streets. It's crazy what a gram can do.
It seemed like a small amount.
You can get about 500,000 years off a gram.
He wild for that one.
That was a crazy thing.
Can I contextualize some of what was definitely a fun
I don't even know
fight?
what that word
Do
means,
whatever the hell
yeah.
At this point, goddammit.
So people were even my man Antt calling it the fight of the year. Perhaps it is. We're young in the year. I can't think of
I forgot the other one.
I can't. Benavidez Morel was fun, but this was more competitive, consistently.
Go ahead.
But it's. It's funny. Chris Eubank Sr., he said after the fight to my guy, Radio Raheem, he goes, I just don't, because remember, he was hesitant of coming to this fight all along. No one was more critical of the fight than Chris Eubank Sr. because they're 2 weight classes apart. Mm-hmm. He didn't like his son going to antics like slapping an egg across another man's face. We all understand why Eubank feels justified in doing it. Anyways, and so he says to Raheem afterwards, we can't go down this path towards WWE, right? And I think to myself, Chris, brilliant man, Chris Eubank Sr., got a lot of respect for him. He was a bad man. You had by far the biggest WWE moment of the night. When you came in with your son, the announcers turned into Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler.
Yeah,
my God, that's Chris Eubank Sr.
And he thought about that.
Right.
Only thing would have been better if he walked out first with his son. Yeah. They both would have just appeared.
Right. So what it is a little bit like I was getting at late last year about Tyson and Jake Paul. Where what does this say about everything? I understand their fathers fought 30 years ago and this is unprecedented in sports. I get that, but I'm not buying that played a major role. But it's the egg slap, it's the antics, it's the drama, it's the WWE bullshit. And Chris Sr. is like, oh, we can't accelerate towards it. I love Chris Sr., but you provided the WWE moment of the night, and your son and Nigel's son were used as instruments to get Turkey further, getting his goal further of monopolizing boxing with TKO Boxing, which owns WWE. Mm-hmm. Do we get the irony there? Does the audience follow me on that?
But he didn't really know that he was creating that WWE moment, you know?
Right.
He knew it was a moment.
But he also is he's a gentleman's gentleman, you know what I mean? So for him, seeing his son do that, if you know Chris Eubank Sr., if you know his just him, that is, my man would probably die before he did something like that, So that was just kind of out of bounds for him, but it created a moment. I mean, like I said, that fight, it took this fight like a month to happen or something like that. And I felt like over here, we felt every single bit of what was going on over there,
No, he's a wonderful man.
And that's how you promote it.
I don't do that. I respect Mr. Eubank Sr.
Yes, sir.
You know what
yes,
I mean?
Sir. Yes, sir.
But it leads me to, I want to ask the audience this. What does it say about us that this is the fight that gets 65,000? It wasn't for a title, and both fighters are talented. They're as flawed as they are talented. They both have gifts of athleticism other fighters don't have. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. They can fight. They showed the world that, and they showed the world their heart and their balls. All credit to them on that. But for me personally, 2 fights that set my soul on fire much more than this fight. Angelo Leo in his hometown, knocking out Venado Lopez, 4-1 underdog for the title, gets the knockout of the year. Raymond Ford, behind on the cards, fighting for his first ever world title, comes from behind to knock out Klomatov. You know what those two fights have, or the huge contrast is? Those two fights were fought in front of a couple of hundred people, and they didn't receive the kind of fervor that this fight did. This fight was fought in front of 65,000 people with no belt. They fought in front of a couple of hundred people with something really on the line. So that's my point about Eubank Sr. saying we can't continue down this path of WWE. The public is choosing it.
Yeah.
Because when you get a kid, that ain't enough for the public no more. Two hungry kids fighting for the title, winning by knockout.
Yeah.
No. We need two guys who aren't fighting for a title, but they give us all the BS.
That other component that you didn't speak of, obviously 2 Hall of Fame fathers.
Right.
So that really helped with this. But you're right. Yeah, you're right. The ability to promote that fight the way that it ultimately ended up being promoted is what led to at least half. And half is a little bit more than 30.
30,000 already.
And you get half and you still get probably twice as much, if not 3 times as much, as some of the big fights over here in the States. You know what I mean? So I think that they did a fantastic job promoting the fight. I really didn't think that they missed anything. I think it also proves when there's no belt on the line, these guys aren't the most experienced by far. It proves that if people are connected to what's going on, they're going to tune in. And that's the key over here in the States. The key over here in the States, you got to get people connected to what's going on in the ring on fight night. Y'all watching this, y'all are already connected. Y'all want to see the big fights. Y'all love the big fights. It's about getting, and that's why I always try to use, like we got Omar Miller coming on today. People are connected to Omar. When they find out that Omar's watching all of the fights, they're going to try to tune in and watch the fights that Omar's watching. You know what I mean? You got to get people connected to what's going on in the ring. And when you get people connected to what's going on in the ring, it really doesn't matter who's in the ring, i.e. Jake Paul. I.e. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. You're connected to Mike because of childhood. You're connected to Mike for all of these other reasons. And Jake Paul, you're connected to him since his childhood. You know what I mean? So boxing's got to try to figure out a way to connect the dots for a Jamal Charlo who's coming back soon, for a Caleb Plant who has an amazing story coming soon. He's being in the ring soon. And, there's a number of other fighters that you can mention who deserve a big audience like that and would truly perform in front of a big audience like that.
Yeah, I'm just... It's tough. It seems like you got to appeal to lowest common denominator to really get over these days, though. You got to fight a 58-year-old Tyson, or you got to slap another man with an egg, and the dad's got to show up last second. Sometimes I wonder what more needs to be done and should be done. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Like the way fighters are promoted, it's been lackluster for the longest time back when you were fighting.
Yeah.
But what I'm asking is, what does the public really want? Like, are they even gonna buy Angelo Leo because he's a nice kid and all that? No,
well,
probably
see,
not.
The difference of it is that's English boxing.
Yeah,
and English boxing is still. They figured out a way to make sure that boxing survived and thrived the way that it does. You know, over here in the States, it just kind of happened. I think again, 100%, and this is just coming off the top right now, but this is what I have said about boxing. Boxing is the bad boy of sports. I've been saying that forever, and I think that boxing got so, the boxers outside of the ring got such a bad rap over here that all of these companies, these Nikes and Adidas and all of these liquor companies and all that kind of stuff, they just started to go a different way because it became unsafe to try to promote a fight, and the fighter swings on the other fighter before the fight. Now we don't even know if we're going to get a fight night. You know what I mean? So I just think over here it just got bad for businesses to be involved with boxing, or at least they felt that way. I think that's why they went away from it. Trust me, you get some of these big names back involved with boxing, and that'll help. Because those big names are going to not only promote the sport, but they're going to get other big money people involved. And there's a way to get this thing back rolling over here in the States. They just got to figure it out.